The topic of the Module 5 will be about governance, climate finance, and technological innovation for water actions in NDCs. So the plan of this module, we will talk a little bit about water governance for climate change resilience. Then we talk about the technological innovation and decision making in this regard. Finally, we will talk much more in details about the climate finance and financial and economic considerations. We conclude before presenting the quiz and any related issues in discussion. So I will start firstly with section 1 about water governance. Of course, the challenges of integrating climate change in water governance is important and should be taken into consideration. So actually, climate change adaptation and mitigation need to deal with increasingly complex interactions between energy, land, water, and biodiversity. So in this regard, these interactions means we have to upgrade our governance systems to be able to deal with these interactions. So increasing competition over water resources reinforces the importance of governance in water management and reuse. The management of both climate and water requires mechanisms for oversight and coordination, and climate policies traditionally overseen by environment ministries, which often have limited power, are increasingly moving towards more central and influential locations. So this is an important point. If I want to look into this diagram, we can see that the location of coordination mechanism for NDC implementation based on each country, we found that globally, the Ministry of Environment, usually around 60% of countries, has this coordination. It is the location of coordination mechanism. But in other countries, we found that there's, for example, around 19% the Cabinet of Council of Ministers, and also we have Ministry of Finance 1%, Ministry of Foreign Affairs around 60%. So and President or Prime Minister's office around 14%. So actually, think about your location of coordination mechanism for your country. I presume that maybe in majority of Arab countries are the Ministry of Environment, but we have to look into actually the power of coordination. So this is an important topic that we have to think later on. Now, when we talk about governance, of course, and we want to integrate the climate change issues, it's better to start from the vision. To develop the vision and then try to make an action plan to apply this vision into institutional and actions, practical actions. So actually, when we talk about the vision, firstly, the importance of the vision, actually, it provides a roadmap for decision makers and stakeholders to navigate the complex challenges of water management in a changing climate. This vision should take into account the potential impacts of climate change on water resources, such as changes in precipitation patterns, sea level rise, and increased frequency and intensity of extreme weather events. Secondly, vision can help also to build resilience and adaptability in water management system. This may involve developing new technologies or approach to water management, such as water reuse and use of natural-based solutions to mitigate the impacts of climate change. And thirdly, it can help to ensure that water resources are managed equitably and sustainably, taking into account the needs of different stakeholders and future generations. I think I'm not in the presentation mode. I will put it directly. Now, the public participation is very important. So water governance research has highlighted the important role of participation to address complex water issues. So this should be taken into consideration in our vision for water governance. And this principle sets out 3 fundamental rights: access to information, access to public participation, and access to justice, as a key pillars of sound environmental governance. Enabling multi-value approach in water governance. And of course, when we want to talk about multi-value approach, we have to directly think about the integrated water resources management, which is the tool that gives us the ability to integrate multiple approach in our governance processes. In the NDCs, we found that the percentage of countries are really only 27%. We found that this is a global estimate or evaluation. We found that IWRM is not mentioned in 73% of the NDCs. So actually, this is a lag. This is a gap. And you know that in the SDGs, there is a dedicated indicator for the integrated water resources management, which is the indicator 6.5.1. And this indicator is measured for all countries, and the results are published. For example, in the SDG 6.5.1, we noticed that there is no specific focus on whether the water resources management practices are adequate to address impacts of climate change. I think this is a gap in the evaluation of SDG 6.5.1. And another issue that if we look to the IWRM indicator score, the SDG 6.5.1 score, we found that in all the UN region, and particularly in the Arab region, we found that the majority of countries are still lack of solid foundation for IWRM. So this is very important issues to highlight. This gap should be actually taken into consideration in the future. Now I will show you an interesting IWRM data portal. I think you should know this portal and access it, because you will find many information, useful information for IWRM. Particularly, you will find the information that comes from countries regarding SDG 6.1 evaluation, and in these evaluations you will find some interesting information about the country governance and institutional aspects for water. I will show you that. Let me go to the internet to show you that.
دكتور كنت حابة أسأل يعني which country do you think is a good يعني example for IWRM setup application? Which are the countries, or يعني
in the Arab region?
If you want to see a good example.
In the Arab region, you mean?
Or يعني anywhere, not necessarily.
We have to actually, yes. Thank you for the question. Maybe we have to look to the SDG 6.5.1 indicator results or score over the countries to see which one has the highest score. This could give us some indication about the application of IWRM in countries. But you should know that sometimes there is uncertainty in processing these types of scores. Sometimes because it comes from countries itself, and sometimes the countries maybe they feel that they are good. Let me show you this portal, and you will find here, if you are from Oman, right?
Yes.
Yes, we can open the file of Oman. We can find lots of let's say information regarding IWRM in Oman. It's interesting to go through this tool or platform. I will go into the net. So it's from UNEP and DHI Center and GWP. So here, for example, when you go to the IWRM data, you have country reports. If I select country reports, I would find all the countries and their reports. For example, let me take Oman as an example. Of course, the Arab countries are there. So this is Oman. I can download. This is the score of Oman. Just 1 minute. It's on the internet. So we can see that In Oman, in terms of enabling environment for IWM, it's 90%. Institutional and participation, it's 81%. Actually, Oman has a high score, 79%. It's a very good score in terms of SDG 6.1.5.1. So also you can find much more information, like, for example, if you want to see the full submission of Oman, you can download the full submission here. And in the full submission, there's lots of useful information. I can download now, again, to share the file. So this is the file that I downloaded from the portal, the web. You can see here it's in Arabic. If I want to go into this report, this is a 42 pages. So actually you have all the institutional aspects related to IWM and to water governance. Particularly, if you want to think about enhancing water governance, if you want to think about enhancing coordination among different stakeholders related to water to take into consideration climate change, it's a good point. It's a good point to start with this document that you can download it from this portal. Potential for joint projects also that can address development's need of several different countries that are relied on shared water. The enhanced NDCs of neighboring countries and how their climate change mitigation and adaptation plan might affect positively or negatively the management of shared water bodies, and also consulting and coordinating with neighboring countries on water-related measures in shared basin included in NDCs. Let's take some messages, takeaway messages, to conclude the water governance. Develop water governance vision for climate change resilience and related action plan. Enhance the capacity of water governance institutions and stakeholders to plan and implement climate resilient water management practices. Develop and implement integrated water resources management plans that incorporate climate change projections and scenario. Conduct regular monitoring and assessment of water resources and ecosystems to better understand and manage the impacts of climate change on water availability, on water quality and ecosystems. Develop and implement water allocation policies that consider the needs of various stakeholders, including vulnerable groups, and balance competing demands, particularly in times of droughts. Promote stakeholder engagement and participation in water governance processes. Develop and implement drought and flood management plans that consider the impacts of climate change and incorporate early warning system and risk assessment. Foster international cooperation and collaboration on transboundary water management to address the impacts of climate change on shared water resources. So that's it for the water governance. Let's move now to section 2 to talk a little bit about the technological innovation and decision making. Important aspects of technological innovation, like, for example, we can think about satellite-based Earth observation, which can help identify trends in precipitation, evapotranspiration, snow and ice cover melting, as well as runoff and storage. Also, we can think about the advanced sensor technologies, which can support smart water management, notably by enabling online and real-time monitoring of water availability and quality, and of course, water use also. We can add to this that smart technologies, smart water management is very important in also real-time monitoring the water use. Major information and communication technologies, ICT evolutions in the field of data acquisition have been facilitated by high-speed internet networks and global coverage, as well as cloud computing and the enhancement of virtual storage capabilities. We can also think about the Internet of Things, IoT, which designates a computing concept in which everyday physical objects are connected to the internet and to each other forming a network of interrelated devices that can communicate and transfer data without requiring a human intervention. For example, the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission has installed one of the largest pilot programs of smart water meters, with 178,000 water meters equipped with smart sensors to record hourly water consumption. So this might be possible now based on these IoT and all the other technological developments that already done so far. So the data are transmitted automatically 4 times a day over a wireless network and used to detect, and this system could be used easily to detect leakages in the water supply network, as well as to analyze the patterns in water consumption. So this information that comes from these such systems are very important for water management. Also, we can think other application of IoT, Internet of Things, in rural areas can improve water use efficiency in irrigation through sensors, sending data on weather and soil moisture conditions to the irrigation system in order to optimize watering. Applications of big data analytics can help in knowledge gain by processing the collection of continuous streams of water-related information and data to extract actionable information and insights for improved water management. Okay, so finally, we can think about also the various artificial intelligence applications and techniques, models, and machine learning algorithms for effective water quality management, which are being explored these days, in particular for the simulation, prediction, and forecasting of water quality, for statistical analysis of water quality data, and for the identification of pollution sources. So all these technological development are very important to the water sector, and they can be used effectively in the water management, and also to enhance the required applications and actions related to water. Okay, I will skip now to the citizen science.
دكتور علي ممكن بس كلمة لأنه أنا مضطر أرجع على اجتماع.
Yes, Dr. Bashir, good morning.
Good morning. آسف كثير للمقاطعة، وأنا كثير بعتذر إنه اليوم ما قدرت أكون موجود معكم، باعتبار إنه أنا موجود حاليا في تدريب لكل هيئات الأمم المتحدة حول موضوع كيف نعمل برامجنا مع بعض وكيفية تنسيق الجهود بين هيئات الأمم المتحدة في مصر. فأعتذر اعتذار شديد عن عدم تمكني بالتواجد معكم اليوم. علما بأنه هو آخر يوم غاد.
So we back to the presentation. Okay, so we are in at this level, I think. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
doctor.
Yes.
Very good.
Yes.
So actually, we arrived here. We are talking about citizen science in the face of climate change. Inclusive approach can empower all water users to take part in the collection, sharing, and use of information for mitigation and adaptation purposes. For example, citizen science and crowdsourcing have the potential to contribute to early warning systems and can also provide data for validating flood forecasting models. So by this, I conclude the second section. Now, I will start talking about the climate finance, financial and economic considerations. Actually, if we look to the global climate finance architecture, we found that there's many potential sources of financing and climate funds. Also, that when you want to present a funding proposal, you need to have an implementing agency and institution. And why connect watering the NDCs and climate finance? The state of the NDCs financing, actually NDCs are a powerful tool to engage with financing partners on country priorities. The urgency associated with adaptation actions is important to financial institutions looking for partners that take investment plans seriously. Also, through the NDCs, many developing countries have noted external financing as a precondition to achieving adaptation commitments. And countries note in their NDCs that access to finance is a constraint, and they recognize that this is partly because of their weak capacity for project preparation and promotion. So back here to the capacity of project preparation, and I think this should actually enhance ourselves and start submitting projects and prepare projects for financing. This chart show, let's say, the access to climate finance by topic, mitigation versus adaptation. So we can see that mostly in some countries, there is the adaptation part is much higher. In others, we have the mitigation. And this, of course, this depends on the socioeconomic and natural conditions of the countries. Let's say, for example, in Sudan, in Iraq, in Yemen, and we have all these countries seeks for adaptation much more than mitigation. We can see, for example, in Syria, there is some balance between adaptation and mitigation. Adaptation and cross-cutting issues. If you want to look also to the overall, in terms of sectors, we found that the energy sector has the most percentage of financing. If we look to the water resources, it's also have another important factor, 14%, which is very good. Also, we have to look into two promising trends that will increasingly help water project access to climate finance. The first is the increasing recognition of the mitigation potential within water and sanitation projects. The second trend is an increasing emphasis on financing climate adaptation. So water and wastewater utilities can have large energy footprints. So there is a significant mitigation potential in increasing both water and energy efficiency, as well as in recovering energy, water, and nutrients from wastewater streams. Other solutions with benefits in both water and climate include, for example, regenerative agriculture, green infrastructure, ecosystem restoration, and other innovative initiatives such as voltaics, solar panels that float on reservoirs and provide clean energy while preventing water loss through evaporation. In terms of measures for mitigation in water and wastewater, this includes energy consumption reduction, energy and nutrient recovery, water reuse, and water loss reduction. For example, in Jordan, we have 2% of greenhouse gas emission reduction from water and wastewater systems that are already set as a target. Now, talk about the project bankability before starting looking into the funding institutions. Bankability or water project bankability means that practitioners must ensure that a project is bankable or likely to receive funding based on the project's design objectives, risk profile, enabling environment, and other factors. So projects hoping to use climate finance must explicitly address the causes and the consequences of climate change to be considered bankable. Adaptation and resilience projects must also demonstrate how the project will respond to and address expected climate impacts in the project's area that also must be backed with scientific evidence such as climate data. Also, the gender dimensions of climate change and to mainstream gender equality consideration into the project cycle must be considered. So all these aspects should be considered to consider the project as bankable for climate finance. Also, we can add the project proponents should search for the most compatible financing sources and match their project plan to the financer's criteria and objectives. Project proposals also should align with the related policies and plans already in place, such as national development strategies, national adaptation plans, or river basin investment and management plans. As a definition, of course, we can define that no regret investments are the investments that are beneficial regardless of the climate impacts. So they would provide benefits even in the absence of climate change. For example, we can state the rainwater harvesting. Even if there's climate change or no, the rainwater harvesting is still a no-regret investment. Sustainable groundwater management, micro-irrigation technologies, wastewater use, improved water storage, any intervention that improve efficiency and conservation by reducing leaks, for example. Also, we can think about the results-based climate financing, this type of investment in which funds are dispersed by an investor or donor to a recipient upon the achievement of a pre-agreed set of mitigation or adaptation results. So this types of financing has the potential to improve monitoring and reporting and verification capacity, strengthen domestic institutions, mobilize the private sector, and create or strengthen market to produce climate results. Leveraging financing payments for environmental services projects related to enhancing environmental services, this will have co-benefits, including for water. And for example, the best example for that is from New York. It has made lots of investments in the watershed protection, which is the upstream, the water source, and have ended by saving more than 300 million per year, US dollar per year, on water treatment operation and maintenance cost alone. So you see the co-benefits. When you invest in the watershed protection, you will reduce your expenses in water treatment. Okay, so before starting with giving examples of climate fund institutions, let's take an overview about the NDC investment planning guide. This planning guide is available from the NDC partnership. We talked about the NDC partnership in the previous modules. So this guide actually provides a step-by-step guidance for countries to develop and strengthen their climate commitments into actions by preparing investment plans based on current best practices collected by the NDC partnership. To download this guideline, you can follow this link here. I put some summaries of this guideline, which is actually, it's developed on 3 stages, main stages. Stage one is investment planning capacity. The stage 2 is investment needs identification and prioritization. And stage 3, investment mobilization. And each one of these stages, there is different objectives. For example, in stage 1 and components, like component 1, institutional arrangement, component 2, multi-stakeholder engagement, and component 3, monitoring and reporting. In stage 2, we have also 3 components, like identifying NDC investments needs, and component 2, costing and financing gap analysis. And in component 3, investment and supporting activity prioritization. In stage 3 also there is 5 components. Component 1, barriers to investment. Component 2, policies, regulation, and financial instruments. And component 3, matching sources of financing. And of course, component 4, which is an important part of investment mobilization, is the project preparation. And component 5, pipeline and project road mapping. So if you want to go in more details about these components, you can download this guide. So let's start with the first multilateral climate finance for water. The first one is the Green Climate Fund. This was established as a financing mechanism of the Paris Agreement to help developing countries mitigate and adapt to climate change. As of 2019, it has received around 10 billion in pledges out of the goal of 100 billion per year. And the fund has committed about 5 billion. So this is in 2019. Of course, now it's much more higher. Most their results areas and investment involve water management. And this is very important. That clearest results area of water is health, food, and water security, which falls under adaptation. Of course, to prepare a funding proposal The aim of this guidebook is to improve understanding of the application requirements and procedures to ensure that high quality proposals submitted to the GCF. Also, it targets organizations preparing projects proposal to GCF with a focus on accredited entities, intermediaries, and national designated authorities. Also, the guidebook provides key lessons to take into account in developing project proposals. So now, there's also other guides that are dedicated to water. And this is very important, that the GCF really gives some particular aspects, look to the water as a particular connector, actually, to all types of mitigation and adaptation actions. And this is good for us, actually, as a water professionals, to see that water is taken seriously into consideration as a project, as a climate change mitigation and adaptation connector. In this regard, they produced recently in 2023, this is very recent, as you can see here, it's a practical guidelines for designing water climate resilient projects in part 1, and you have also the same report in part 2, applications of the practical guidelines for designing water climate resilient projects in IWRM. And this is very important because we need that. The aims of these guidelines is to provide practical information and recommendation on how to prepare the technical content of water-related project proposals. These guidelines are complementary to the water security, as I mentioned, sectoral guide that are described, that describes the position and ambition of GCF in the water sector, as well as the financial mechanism and implementation arrangements that GCF is willing to support. Important to enter into this platform to explain some important features. So I will stop sharing now to go into this platform. If you look here, you have the countries. Here are the countries that are already submitting to GCF. Let me choose, for example, one of these countries. I will take Jordan, for example, because Jordan, they are active on these types of on submitting climate projects, funding projects. So Jordan should be here before Lebanon. This is Jordan. And here you can find all the submitted projects. They are here. And you find also the status of each one of these applications or proposals. So, for example, if you go, you can find which are the approved funding proposals. This one is approved. So this building resilience to cope with climate change in Jordan through improving water use efficiency in agricultural sector. This is important. So this one was approved in 2021. If you click on this, of course, the implementing agency is FAO, as mentioned here. If I want to enter into this project, so I can find information and I can download the funding proposal. So this is very important. What you can see now, you can see funding proposals already approved, okay, from different countries. And you can see also from your own country, you can see what are the funding proposals that already approved by GCF. But why I'm mentioning that, when you download this funding proposal, I already downloaded. I will show you in the results of downloading this document. I will show you what it contains, this funding proposal. But actually, you can use it as an example. If you have a similar project, let's say in your country, you can just take ideas how this project is prepared, what are the types of information that are included, so you can adjust your situation. And you know at the end that these types of information and the way of presenting this information are already approved. So this is very important for you. Okay, so if I want to back to the countries, so you can find here all the proposed projects from any country. So you can choose your country and you see what are your progress in terms of projects proposals. So since we are talking about this type of information, I will back to my presentation. I will present as an example for developing a project proposal for GCF, just directly after this couple of slides. And we will see what are the potential of using an already approved proposal. So we can compare and see what this would be very beneficial to us to prepare our proposals. Other funding initiative is the Global Environmental Facility. It provides grants for several types of environmental projects, including climate change, mitigation, and adaptation. It also serves as the financial mechanism for the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC. Since its founding in 1992, it has funded almost 1,000 climate mitigation projects and 3,300 adaptation projects. Also, we can think about the Adaptation Fund. The Adaptation Fund was originally set up under the Kyoto Protocol and finances projects that help developing countries to adapt to climate change. It has supported over 80 adaptation projects since 2010 and has committed around 564 million to climate adaptation and resilience activities. During the 24th United Nations Climate Change Conference, COP24, in December 2018, country parties decided that the Adaptation Fund would serve the Paris Agreement starting in 2019. So also this would be beneficial for the NDCs. Water management is one of the Adaptation Fund's project sectors. So, and it accepts transboundary project proposals. Also, this is an important feature of the Adaptation Fund. Also, we can mention the development banks, the multilateral development banks like World Bank, for example. At COP24, the World Bank committed to doubling its climate investments to 200 billion US dollar from 2021 up to 2025 to support countries taking ambitious climate action. So this is good that also the development bank starting supporting the climate change investment. Also, the World Bank aligns its internal processes and metrics to consider climate risks and opportunities and evaluate its operations for climate impacts and co-benefits. So it's worthwhile for water managers hoping to access World Bank funds to mainstream climate mitigation and adaptation into their plans. We also think about other type of financing initiatives, the bilateral climate finance. Bilateral public climate finance from developed to developing countries is growing now. Also, as is the trend with most climate financiers, bilateral sources primarily finance mitigation. Finally, we can think about the private sector finance. Other sources of private finance could include carbon markets, foreign direct investment, insurance, or commercial financial institutions. One emerging source of private financing also that may be useful to water practitioners is the green bond market. The exercise, as I mentioned, will talk about writing a green climate fund funding proposal. Of course, the funding proposal template is already available from GCF, so you can download it here from this link. So this is the link to download. It's in Word document, so you can adjust it as you want. And also, as I mentioned, you can, for example, if you wish to start writing a funding proposal and you need a practical example, you can take from the website that I showed you, you can take, for example, similar projects to your project that you are going to do or to develop. And you can take, for example, already approved projects. You can download it and you can start actually taking some ideas to develop your own funding proposal. As I mentioned in this regard, the funding proposal from Jordan, building resilience to cope with climate change in Jordan through improving water use efficiency in the agriculture sector, which was approved. We can see actually how this would be developed based on the already template that we have in Word document. Let me open the template for you, just to show you what we are talking about. I will share my screen to show you the document. So as you can see, this is the proposal. It's a blank, so you can add whatever you want here. You can change the title. Let's say a new proposal. For water use efficiency. So you can change all the information here needed. You can change it directly in the Word document. Here you have the contents, around 8 sections from A to H. Each one of these sections, you should present the necessary information related to the section. And in this template, for example, if you want any information needed, let's say if I go to the A21 section, executive summary. If you want to develop an executive summary, it already provides you what should contain this executive summary. It should include like climate change problem, proposed interventions, climate results benefits. If I want to open the Jordan file to see what they included in their executive summary, let me open it for you. So they put in their executive summary, they put 3 main paragraphs. First paragraph, the climate risks. Can you see my screen now? The climate change risks. Are you seeing the document?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So in their executive summary, as a response to A21, they put the climate change risk in Jordan. They put the key challenges and the proposed interventions. So, as I said, you can use it such as proposals. You can use it to enhance your capability to develop your own proposal. So, since you have an example here in front of you, and this example was approved, so you can use it in terms of what types of information you should put, how to integrate this information to use the information related to your country, and maybe to enhance. Maybe you can have the capability also to enhance your proposal based on several examples or previous examples. I put here in my presentation a summary for all the information needed. And in this template, we have actually different sections as I showed you. In section A, projects and program summary, we have the executive summary. In section B, project program information, we should talk about the climate context, theory of change, the project program description, implementation arrangements, justification for GCF funding requests, and exit strategy and sustainability. All these are subsections of the section B. Okay, so I want to stop here. We will keep the quiz directly after we finish the presentations from Morocco and Algeria. Let me stop sharing now my screen to listen to our two colleagues, Naima from Morocco and Aisha from Algeria. They will present us their NDCs in the countries and how they figure out how they can enhance the NDCs in terms of water. Okay, who want to start first? I would like Naima to start first.
Let me share my presentation.
Yes, go ahead. You can share your presentation.
Can you see it?
Yes, we can see it. But remember, Naima, you have only 10 minutes, okay?
I will do my best. Thank you.
Yes.
So thank you first for the invitation, and thank you for this opportunity to share the case of Morocco. So my presentation will consist in a brief introduction of the national context and the revised NDC, and it will provide some information about the water-related measures that were identified in this NDC for both adaptation and mitigation, and in the end, some recommendations for the organizers. So with regard to the context, of course, some opportunities, but some challenges as well. So we have an increased vulnerability within the country, and this might be encountered by enhancing the governance to climate change, and also by building capacities to better design bankable projects that will allow for mobilizing international support. In terms of opportunities, I can mention the active role of the Morocco within the climate international community, mainly through the hosting two COPs, COP7 and COP22. So this two events, the organization of these two events enabled a high ambition and political support. And also it allowed for the mobilization of literally all stakeholders, mainly at the infra-national level. Things that has or that enables also clear the development of clear strategy framework. So the vision of Morocco is to make our territories and our civilization more resilient to climate change, while striving to ensure a rapid transition to allow carbon development. Our NDC is multi-sectoral, and it is supported by several principles. Such as the respect of human rights and gender equality as recognized in our constitution, the synergies that should be done or taken into consideration with the UN conventions and treaties, and the alignment with the SDGs, but mainly through the implementation of an ongoing process, which is the regionalization, through which regions are provided more power and resources to develop their own development in their territories. So the NDC set up an ambition objective, which is to reduce the GHG emissions by 45.5% by 2020 compared to the business as usual. Part of this objective is done through domestic effort, through securing investment or domestic investment to implement 34 actions. But Morocco is requiring over than $20 billion to implement 27 actions which are conditional. So these are the trajectories. By 2020, the first one is for the business as usual, and the second is for the scenario with the implementation of unconditional measures, and the third one is the scenario with both with the implementation of both conditional and unconditional measures. Similarly, for the adaptation, we built through the National Adaptation Plan process. We built the ground and the foundation to integrate adaptation in our strategic planning. And the NDC is integrating several quantifiable goals in several sectors. Water, agriculture, fisheries, forest, health, vulnerable zones, also energy and industry. And we required over than 40 billion to implement those activities, those measures. So back to the coming to the measures as identified in the NDC. For the meteorology, we identified the increase of the number of observation stations from 2,000 currently to 1,000 by 2030. In the agriculture sector, we identified the rehabilitation of small and medium hydro to cover an objective of 150,000 hectares. We also plan for water desalination for the purpose of irrigation, and to extend irrigation to a new agricultural zone, an objective of 60,000 hectares. Also to equip drip irrigation on an additional area up to 350,000 hectares. With regard to the water sector, we have set objectives by 2020 and by 2050, 2040 and 2050. For 2030, we have the connection to the sewage network at a rate of 90%. And we have also the connection to the sewage network at 50% in rural areas. 90 is for the urban areas. 90 is for the urban areas, sorry, and 50 is for the rural areas. The reuse of wastewater to reach a capacity of 275 million cubic meter in urban areas and 60 million cubic meter in rural areas. Also, the reuse of wastewater to reach a capacity of 183 million cubic meter in coastal zones. Reaching 100% of the treated wastewater volume, and the treatment of wastewater up to the tertiary stage, and reuse of 50% in the cities. For the objectives of by 2050, we are planning the construction of 50 large dams and 900 small dams. Also, by 2050, we are planning the realization of 6 seawater desalination plants in the short and medium term. The improvement of the performance of the drinking water distribution networks to avoid leaks and avoid the loss of water. So we have an objective to reach 80% by 2040 and 85% by 2050. We have also the conversion and the upgrade of localized irrigation to reach an objective of 70% of the total irrigated area. Also, a vision to harvest 300 million cubic meter per year from rainwater. We have also the reduction of overexploitation of groundwater by 50% by 2030. Another objective is to reduce pollution by more than 70% and to increase the reuse rate to nearly 30%. In the forest sector, main objective to manage the watershed through the management of ravines. We have an objective to manage up to 1,500,000 hectares. And in the field of nature-based adaptation, we successfully experienced or we succeeded to use up to now, and we are still planning to continue in this action, to use the treated wastewater to irrigate and to maintain green areas, particularly lawns. And as recommendations for this workshop, on behalf of the Moroccan team, I would like to thank the organizers and also to express our appreciation to the quality content of this workshop for the material that was shared. And we would like to propose as a follow-up, if possible, to host some workshops, preferably in-person workshops, to deal with the nexus approach, because water is a cross-cutting issue, and it is the responsibility of all departments. And we, if possible, if we express our interest to the model that was shared during last week, the Q-Nexus model. And as was mentioned by one of our colleagues last week, the training of we are also for a training of trainers to make sure that the knowledge that we will gain through this workshop is disseminated in our administrations. But thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Naima, for your good presentation. And I would like also to support your recommendation on doing more training, and particularly on the nexus issue. It's very important to enhance the NDCs and other issues in the country. Anybody would like to ask any questions to Naima before moving to Aisha? I have a question, Naima, based on what you presented. What's your own suggestions? I mean, do you find that is it possible to enhance the water in the future NDCs in Morocco, and what kinds of actions could be really taken? Future, I mean.
Thank you, Dr. Ali, for this question. It is very, very important. Actually, through this workshop and
we lost your voice. I think this could be a problem of internet connection. Can you hear Naima? No, nobody can hear. Let's start now. Aisha, representation from Algeria.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
It's my pleasure. Thank you. It's my pleasure to share this couple of days with the other participants. Thank you, Dr. Ali Karnib, and to Dr. Bisher for this organization of such events. I will share my screen now.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. Okay. Here we are. So we'll start our presentation with an overview of Algeria and the influence of the climate change in our country. We'll pass after that to mitigation measures taken into consideration in our NDC. And finally, we'll talk about the real actions and conclusion. I think everyone knows where is Algeria located, so we'll skip this topic. Okay. All what you have to know is that Algeria is divided in two parts, the northern and central part and the southern part.
I think we lost also the
extreme east.
Yes, go
Sorry.
ahead. No, because there's a interruption in voice, and it's okay. You can go ahead. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
We can hear you.
So the two Atlas Mountains chains are related in the extreme east with another mountain chain, which is Ores. Between the two Atlas Mountains chains are situated the high plateaus. The southern part of Algeria is only desert. It represents 80% of the Algerian territory. We find oil industry, oasis agriculture, tourism, and also hydraulic cultural heritage, which is Fugara. It's a kind of groundwater collection wells that aims at equal distribution of water between farmers for their plant groves. You have to know that this heritage is from Iran culture. So regarding the climate change, Algeria is known by a climatic diversity from the north to the south and from the west to the east, with the predominance of aridity on more than 90% of the national territory. We noticed several parameters to distinguish the climate change. It is through the irregular rainfall, temporally and spatially, rise in temperatures, degradation of plant cover and soil resulting in greater erosion and accelerated desertification, an increase in the frequency of extreme climatic events, for example, torrential rains, drought, heat waves, marine flooding, etc. Finally, disruption of coastal areas and marine environments. Since 1975, Algeria has experienced a gradual decrease in rainfall, illustrated by the following graphs. We just took two examples. For example, this station is in Constantine, is in the eastern part of Algeria. After 1972, maybe, yes, 72, there is a remarkable decrease in rainfall. This is another station in the southern part of Algeria, in Jelfa station. we can notice that after 1980, there is a remarkable decrease in rainfall as well. Regarding the drought, the theoretical scarcity threshold set by the World Bank at 1,000 cubic meter per inhabitant per year places Algeria among the poorest countries in terms of potential water. The theoretical water availability, which was 1,500 cubic meter per inhabitant per year in 1962, dropped, unfortunately, into only 430 cubic meter in 2020. This availability brought back to the mobilized water resources would be further reduced. You can find in this map the distribution of coefficient of drought in Algeria. This map shows the flat factor distribution in Algeria from the dangerous area into the less dangerous one. So here there is some flooding in Algeria examples. For example, this one happened in Algiers in 2001. This one in a northern province in Algeria also. The first one caused many damages, material and human, unfortunately. This one caused only material damages in 2011. Those are lately happened in several parts of Algeria in 2021. Some flooding in the northern part and the southern parts. Now we will talk about mitigation measures taken into consideration in our NDCs. For example, updating of the National Program for Renewable Energies and Energy Efficiency. For this one, I think that I have to reduce some of my time of presentation, so I will talk about mitigation and the real actions meanwhile. So regarding the updating of the National Program for Renewable Energies, we are working now on the solar energy. I think that we have the largest reservoir of radiation of solar energy. So we have at most 3,650 hours of radiation in our desert. So we are also trying to use the surface water of our reservoirs in our dam to produce also solar energy. Regarding the hydroelectric energy, so as I already showed that we are in dry area, so instead of producing electricity from water, we prefer to supplying this water for people, for irrigation or for water supplying. The second point, 9% reduction in overall energy consumption by 2030 and aims to thermally insulate a major housing program, as well as the conversion to LPG of 1 million private vehicles and more than 20,000 passes. Regarding this point, there is a good development, and I don't have exact figures to give currently, but I think my own sorry, I think that we will be able to reach this aim on 2030, inshallah. A larger scale deployment of photovoltaic and wind power, accompanied in the medium term by the production of energy from solar thermal, as well as the integration of co-generation biomass and geothermal energy. In terms of methane reduction, Algeria intends to give priority to the management of household solid waste. It aims to achieve by 2030 complete coverage of its territory for waste collection, thus leading to a considerable reduction in the quantities of emissions in CO2 equivalent. In terms of carbon sequestration, the country aims to accelerate and intensify its national reforestation plan with an overall objective of reforestation of 1,200,000 hectares. Adaptation of the institutional and regulatory framework to climate change, institutional and human capacity building for the fight against climate change, establishment of a monitoring and early warning system, and capacity building for the management of extreme climatic events. For this point also, I have exact figures to give, but we, for example, in our agency, as a dams conception, for example, we just established the ORSEC plan, is just to warn and manage the extreme climatic events. Finally, the development of regional and local plans for adaptation to climate change. For the real actions, my colleague and I just collected what we have as data, for example, from our national agency of dams and transfers, and from his side of water reuse. For example, here you can find the evolution of the dams park from 1962 until now. We took 1962 as a reference because it's the year of our independence. So from 0.74 billion cubic meter until 8.6 billion cubic meter in 2022. This is the distribution of dams in Algeria. So as well as you can notice that in the eastern part of Algeria, we have more dams than in the western part, is because of the hydrological and topographical conditions. So these are some projects for transferring water from the wet areas into the dry areas. There are really big projects of almost 200 kilometers of land, so they contain many complicated systems. Those are the characteristics of each project. Regarding the wastewater reuse, so it is an escapable alternative for tackling water stress. 7 million cubic meters of treated wastewater have been reused for agricultural purposes and extinguishing forest fires and watering public green spaces as well. This map shows the wastewater treatment plants operational and in progress in Algeria. Those are some examples. For example, this project has done by the National Sanitation Utility Office. They won the 3rd edition of competition. They won the prize. Among our aims is to increase the volume mobilized by conventional and unconventional waters. For example, for conventional water, we passed from 8,500 billion cubic meter per year into almost 10,000 billion cubic meter per year to achieve 11,000 billion cubic meter per year in 2025. Regarding the unconventional waters, for desalination water, we have we already reached 690 billion cubic meter per year, and our aims is to achieve 1,200 billion cubic meter per year in 2025. The same thing is for the water treatment. We already reached 600 billion cubic meter per year, and our aim is to achieve 1,500 billion cubic meter per year. This is the distribution of water, seawater, desalination program through the coastal Algerian coastal line. As a conclusion, my colleague and I don't think there is a lot to add beside to what was already proposed by our NDCs. Nevertheless, we think that to reach those aims, we truly need to work hard. Just as Charles Swindoll has said, life is 10% of what happens to me and 90% of how I react to it. Indeed, man has caused all this change on Earth, and only him can fix it. So never mind which country caused more damage. The most important is to react. Thank you very much for this opportunity, for your attention, and I wish we will be able to see each other in person, maybe, or anyway. However, thank you.
Thank you, Aisha, and thank you, Hamdi, for preparing this interesting presentation.